All right, back. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy selection weekend. It is Spin Doc here, solo for one more day. Soso will be back with us live tomorrow, but it is getting down to the wire. I got a whole bunch of content for you today. I got all kinds of bracketology. I got 3 free plays as always. A whole bunch of stuff happening, whole bunch of conference tournament stuff going on. This is the precursor to the madness. I personally, I love watching high school basketball because used to coach it, and got to check out a fantastic game with my son and my dad last night for guys that we know and guys that we've coached with before. Shout out to hometown boy Joe Mauer and Trey Holloman's alma mater, Cretin-Durham Hall. Beat a undefeated team to go to the state tournament. A fantastic game. So just all kinds of amped up. VIP swept yesterday, including live plays. So cleaning house, but we're back live, and I got some money for the people. So got some money for the people. First things first, few people. Good morning, Logan. What's up, my guy? What's up, Adams? Let's get to it. Yes. It is selection weekend. The bubble is tightening. And some bubbles have burst. So we'll start with bracketology. So I have an overall bracketology update, and then got a few individual teams that I want to point out to everybody. So first things first with bracketology is this is going to shift throughout the weekend. There are even teams that have already been eliminated from their conference tournament who might shift in, out, bubble, not bubble, depending on what happens. Now, the one team that I do want to point out before I get to individual team summaries about what they need, that actually two teams that I think we can just cross off completely, done, out, over with, would be Wake Forest and would also be Cincinnati. Cincinnati isn't even in the next four out for most lists. I think you can probably put Villanova on that list too. Villanova had a chance last night. They actually led UConn for a good portion of the game, but ultimately, or for part of the first half, but ultimately did fall. That wasn't what they needed. They needed a lot of wins in the Big East tournament. They only got one. Wake Forest lost to North Carolina. They're out. I'm going to assume that Dayton's not going to beat VCU for the auto bid. Even if they make it to the A10 final, they're out. And so that leaves a few teams that I want to talk about for just a few seconds. So the first one that I want to go over is the Tar Heels. And on the bottom, just so you guys know, that Q1, Q2, and Q3, 4 is their record in each of those quads. So the Tar Heels today, as of right now, are sitting in the tournament. They are in the tournament right now. They're actually one of Lenardi's last four in. I think they're also Jerry Palm's last four in too. They are sitting right now with an opportunity to control their own destiny. Now, here's the rub, is that what stands in the way of that controlling your own destiny is the same thing that stood in the way of controlling your own destiny last week, and that's the Duke Blue Devils. Likely the Cooper flagless Duke Blue Devils, but the Duke Blue Devils, the number one team in the land, all the same. So you can see North Carolina. It's the same story with the Heels. They have a good net rank. Their net ranking is fine. The problem becomes that 1-11 quad run record. It sticks out like a sore thumb. And when you see some of the other teams that are on the bubble that I'm about to go through, you'll see what I mean, because very, very few teams that are even in this mix have anywhere close to that type of quad one record. So the one quad 3-4 loss, not the worst thing in the world. It doesn't help, but it doesn't hurt. I've talked on here before about once you get through two, if you're a power conference team, two quad threes or a combination of two quad 3, quad 4 losses, that's what starts to really, really hurt you in the committee's eyes. One, if you have a good record, otherwise won't kill you. But North Carolina is a very polarizing team. I can actually see them being on a lot of different lists and a lot of different places on different lists in the selection room on Sunday if they don't win today. If they win today, they're in. That's it. If they can get over the hump, the third time's a charm, beat Duke in the conference tournament, that's it. They're in. It doesn't matter if Cooper Flagg plays or not. That's not a consideration. Win and in. Lose. There's going to be some nervousness, I think, in Chapel Hill on Sunday. I personally think if they win today, then it's pretty simple. 100% chance in. 100% chance, no matter what happens in the ACC final. If they lose today to Duke, then I think that you're probably looking at about 50-50. So it's kind of come down to that for the Heels. Beat Duke and in, lose, and you're flipping a coin to determine your destiny. Next team, Texas Longhorns. Texas did themselves so many favors yesterday. They actually played their way, I think, personally, into the tournament yesterday. I think that as long as they don't just get smacked around by Tennessee, which their only game this year was close. It was at Texas, and Texas actually led for a portion of that game before the Vols closed it out and won by 4. But I don't want to say that it doesn't matter what happens today, because it does, because by most projections, Texas is one of the last 2 teams in the tournament, or one of the first 2 teams out. What's helping Texas is what helps every SEC team, is their quad 1 record. 7 quad 1 wins. There is no other team in college basketball with that many quad 1 wins that is projected to miss the field. And nobody that has that many quad 1 wins and an undefeated quad 3 and 4 record. The quad 2, 3, and 4, will it hurt them? It might, but I personally think that the Longhorns belong in the tournament. I think that their schedule shows that they belong in the tournament. The 14 losses sticks out like a sore thumb. Not going to lie about that. The 6-12 conference record really sticks out like a sore thumb. But it also got to take that with a grain of salt, because that conference is the SEC. So when you're looking at conference record, you have to look at what conference they play in. And if it's the SEC, and in some cases, if it's the Big Ten, you got to give them a little more forgiveness than if you're talking about, say, the Mountain West or the ACC or even the Big East. So a 6-12 record in the SEC won't kill you, especially when you have 7 quad 1 wins. Obviously, with the Longhorns, if they upset and beat Tennessee today, they're in. There's just that 100%. I think if they don't win today, you're probably looking at about a 60-40 shot. I hope that they make it, because that quad 1 record, to me, tells me that they belong. A team that actually was in the tournament was actually one of the last 4 heading in, and actually was one of the last 4 buys last week, but has unfortunately played their way by most prognosticators as out, are the Indiana Hoosiers. So Indiana, with a net rank of 54, they went out in the first round of the tournament against Oregon. So the thing that's going to hurt them, you can see it right there, that quad 1 record. I'm telling you, that is looked at so heavily on Selection Sunday. Yes, the 15-0 from quad 2 and beyond is great, but only 4 quad 1 wins went out in the first round of their conference tournament. And overall, the 13 losses isn't a killer for an at-large bid. The 9-10 record, or I'm sorry, 10-10 record in the Big Ten, I think it's 50-50. I honestly think that it's 50-50. I think that you're going to have some people on their side in that selection room on Sunday. I think you're going to have some people that are going to have them not even close, and some people they're going to have them firmly. I would put the Hoosiers' odds of making the field right now at 50-50. I think that if you're a Hoosiers fan, I think that you can probably flip a coin. Some of their best wins for the year, they did win at Michigan State. They beat Purdue. And they also beat Ohio State, who's not in the not going to be in the tournament, but it's still a decent win. They they had a couple other decent wins, a couple of bad losses though. That are, even though they're quad one, they did have a bad stretch early in the or in January where they lost 7 of 8, and before they got back on track. So those things come back around to bite you. But Hoosiers, if you're a Hoosiers fan, you got about a 50-50 shot. That's my overall take. Next, Boise State. I set it to VIP. We cashed it in VIP. We took Boise. They did play San Diego State, who was down Guar, who was their best big man, but a win's a win, and Boise got it. Boise absolutely needed this to stay in the field, to stay in the running for the field. They're not in right now. I think they're probably one of the first 4 out, if not one of the first 2 out at the moment. I think if they beat New Mexico tonight, that might solidify it, especially if North Carolina loses, Boise wins. That is probably going to leapfrog them over Indiana. It's probably going to leapfrog them over North Carolina, potentially over North Carolina. That one's going to be a tough decision if you're down to those 2 teams, because you do have a Boise team that overall has a better record, has 2 quad 1 wins versus quad 1. However, as you can see, has nowhere near the strength of schedule that the Tar Heels do, nowhere near the strength of schedule that Texas does. Boise is on a run lately. The Colorado State game, it's too bad that they happened to drop that one at home, because if they had won that game, then that would have then yesterday would have been their 7th win in a row, and that probably would have done it. That probably would have gotten them in regardless of what happens against New Mexico tonight. Now, as it stands, they probably need to beat New Mexico. I'm not seeing a scenario where Boise can get in as an at-large unless they win tonight. If they win tonight, that means that they'll make the Mountain and advance to the Mountain West final. That is probably going to be enough to do it. But we'll see. During this regular season, those 2 teams split. New Mexico handled them at the pit pretty handily, and Boise got revenge at home. So it's going to be a tight game. But New Mexico's probably in no matter what. Boise still fighting for their tournament life. And, if you're looking for an angle, that desperation breeds close games and breeds, teams showing out. Boise looked like it yesterday. They got down early and they never panicked. They just grinded back and just kept grinding out baskets. So I think that for Boise, it kind of comes down to pretty simply, if they win today, I would put their odds of getting in the tournament, let's say they lose in the Mountain West final, at about 65 to 70%. If they lose, you're probably looking at 25% or less. And that's what it comes down to at this point in the year. So last individual team before I want to talk about some other scenarios would be the Musketeers, would be Xavier. As of right now, I think that they're probably in the tournament. They are one of the last 4 teams in. The thing that's going to hurt them, or could potentially hurt them, is there again. I talked about it over and over, that quad 1 record, 2-9. Granted, they have 2 quad 1 wins, but which is one more than North Carolina. But when you have 9 quad 1 losses and a 2-9 record, and then you also have 2 quad 2 losses, you're probably looking at about a 50-50 shot. Xavier can't do anything else at the moment to get in. They played a really fun and entertaining game against Marquette yesterday. Marquette got the better of them. So they can't do anything else to improve their standing. Xavier is going to be on pins and needles on Sunday. I think that you're probably looking at another 50-50 shot here. So those are kind of the last few teams that I think are kind of in the mix. There's still some shifting that can be done. If you're looking at teams like Arkansas, Vanderbilt, San Diego State, West Virginia, all 4 of those teams are probably still in, even though West Virginia had a bleh showing in the Big 12 tournament. I think that their resume probably earned them a spot. Arkansas is in for sure. There's not even a question about that anymore. Vanderbilt's in for sure. Not even a question. I think that Utah State's probably in as well. And as as I told VIP, or as we said in VIP the other night, after they happened to lose to Iowa, the Ohio State, not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. 15 losses, a losing conference record, and and 6 quad one wins, which is great, but they also have 11 quad one losses. They have 4 quad two losses, which is kind of the same as a couple quad threes. They're just, with the way the bubble is right now, had Texas lost yesterday, had Texas, Boise, and probably maybe 1 or 2 others lost yesterday, they might have been able to make a case for it. But Ohio State just there's too many losses and there's too many conference losses. That's what I'll say about Ohio State. So other potential bid stealers left. Other potential bid stealers. There's not a ton. Not a ton. The only 2 really that still exist that are out there are in the Big West and the A10, because you have a VCU team that I personally think is probably going to win the A10 tournament. But if they don't, they have a net ranking of 32. They don't have many quad one games, only 1-1. They have 2 quad two losses. With their net ranking, it might be enough to get them over the top. But I think that they're probably a 50-50. They're probably a bid stealer. The other one that I wanted to talk about that my son has just been like going absolutely crazy for, that he wants more than anything. And before you laugh at it, there is a way that it happens. It's a thin margin, but it can. There is a scenario, albeit wild, but I'm trying to go through everything, where 2 Big West teams get in the NCAA tournament. And I'm not kidding. Here's why. So UC Irvine cannot get an at-large bid. That's not going to happen. They have too many sub quad one losses. They don't have enough wins. So the only way for this to happen is Texas, North Carolina, Boise, Colorado State, basically every other bubble team that's playing today loses. VCU wins the A10, and UC San Diego and UC Irvine meet for the Big West Championship, and Irvine wins. Now, what that will do is that UC San Diego has a net ranking of 36. That's identical to North Carolina's. They're basically like they're 35-36, and they've been flip-flopping back and forth. UC San Diego has more quad one wins. UC San Diego does have a quad. They do have a quad two loss, but also quad three. They're 15-0. So they've taken care of business there. Their 2 quad one wins. Again, if North Carolina loses, it's more than North Carolina. Now, if you're the committee, do you let UC San Diego in over North Carolina? I don't know the answer to that. But what I'm saying is that it's a slim margin and a slim potential at this point. But there is a scenario that is not impossible where 2 Big West teams get in the NCAA tournament. Do I think it'll happen? No, I don't. I especially don't think it happens if UC San Diego wins the Big West tournament. If they beat whoever, I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be Irvine, and you'll see why in a second when we get to plays. Then that's it, because Irvine, as much as I love them, they have a net ranking of 61. They have 3 quad 3 losses. They're not in a power conference. There is no path for them. Even though Lunardi has them as one of his next 4 out, they are in the next 4 out. And beating Cal Poly tonight is not going to move their needle any. So just wanted to go over that. But, I love madness. I love craziness. I love the Big West. So I personally would love to see 2 Big West teams get in the NCAA tournament. Again, do I think it'll happen? No, probably not. So, not a whole lot of bid stealers left in the field. In the power conferences, not really. I mean, everybody pretty much left I guess you could say, I guess you could probably say North Carolina, but they're in the tournament right now. But even you look at a conference, like the ACC, Duke's going anyway, Louisville's going anyway, Clemson's going anyway. You look at the Big Ten, and you see that all the teams left in the Big Ten tournament are I think, yeah, all the teams left in the Big Ten tournament, they're all going anyway. So not a whole lot of bid stealers left. I think that those are your only two where if, say, Dayton wins the A10 and the crazy scenario that I talked about with the Big West, a tiny possibility, would be the only shots. Otherwise, Selection Sunday might be a little cut and dry with just seeding to worry about. So that's where we're at right now. Before we get to plays, just a few shout outs. Luke saying I'm smelling unders on the table today at this stage of the game. I can't blame you, Luke. Tight games, third time matching up. We've seen a lot of unders. We've seen a lot of teams that go over, go under. Mo saying love is blind. All right. I'm assuming are you talking about Adams and Missouri, or are you talking about something else? Flow Creator, good morning to you, my friend. And if anybody has any other questions about any other games that are today besides the ones that I'm about to talk about, please put them in the chat. I will make sure to address them at the end. So the first one, I would advise maybe not watching this game. SWAC basketball tends to be, I believe the phrase is ugly AF. So it's an adventure watching SWAC basketball here. But for this game, we do have the Grambling State Tigers and the Alabama State Hornets in the quarterfinal, or the semifinals, I should say, of the SWAC. Grambling, they did it last year. They're doing it again. Came off a upset win against number 1 seeded Southern in a game where we cashed it in VIP. We actually cashed Grambling for that one. But in a game where I firmly believe it was like both teams actively tried to lose. If you've watched the highlights on social media, you saw the crazy end of the game about how Southern tied the game, but really you had to watch the last 3 minutes because it was hilarious. It was literally like, here, you win. Nope, no, we don't want to. You win. No, here, you win. I think that 5 of the last 7 possessions by both teams ended in a turnover. It was pretty ugly. And a game that went into overtime only had 127 total points and cashed the under. So, so SWAC basketball, not pretty to watch. But Grambling State, they did it last year, and they're on a run. Again, they get Alabama State. Alabama State laying 2.5 with a total of 129.5. I told you it wouldn't be pretty. I am very, very serious about that. Now, with this game is one where I can see it being just as ugly as the other SWAC games. As you can see, neither team shoots the ball very well. Both teams very, very bleh shooting the ball, especially for the season, 317th and 319th. So this game's going to be a grind. But these two teams split during the regular season. And I am actually in a conference tournament game like this, in a conference that has been playing very, very close with the top teams, that doesn't score many points, that doesn't shoot the ball very well, I always tend to lean towards the dog. I especially lean towards the dog when it's a Grambling State team that went on a run last year and has a lot of guys plus their coach back against an Alabama State team that as you can see, they do utilize their bench, but they're not very experienced. 214th in overall experience. Now, more experience than Grambling, but the guys that Grambling does have back are a few guys from last year's championship team. Alabama State just doesn't shoot the ball well enough. They don't get to the free throw line enough, as you can see here. The Grambling defense actually quite good for SWAC purposes. So when I get into a scenario like this, I'm actually looking to back the dog on this one. And the other thing with Alabama is Alabama State over the last few games, or actually on the road, not shooting the three very well at all, only at 32.9%. I already mentioned how they don't get to the free throw line. They really make their hay on defense, which is the same thing Southern did, but Grambling State grinded out a win. So I'm going to back the dog here. I'm going Grambling State plus 2.5. If you want a little more risk and don't want to pay juice, you can actually take the Grambling State money line as well. This is a team where it's ugly and it's not going to be pretty, but there are many, many paths to victory over an Alabama State team that during the course of the season has had some really, really ugly offensive performances, including against this exact same Grambling team. They played on March 8th at Grambling. Alabama State won, but they only put up 59. And when they lost at Grambling, they only put up 67. So Grambling's defense has held them in check. Grambling's defense held Southern in check as well. Again, it's only 62 points in overtime, held Southern to just 3 for 17 from the 3-point line and just 31.9% shooting for the number one team in the conference. So I'll back the dog here. Again, if you like to watch high-level basketball, don't watch this game. Just follow it, because I can promise you it'll make your eyes bleed. It's not pretty. But Grambling plus 2.5. All right, next up is the MAC, my MAC. And this is one where I obviously follow these two teams intensely throughout the season. You have Iona and Quinnipiac at 6 p.m. Eastern. You have Quinnipiac, the number one seed in the conference, laying 4.5 with a total of 144.5. Quinnipiac dispatched of Rider in the first round, winning very, very handily. The game was never really that much in doubt. And Iona won the rubber match against their arch rival, Manhattan. If you don't know the Iona-Manhattan rivalry, it's actually low-key one of the better rivalries in college basketball, especially in mid-major college basketball, because the two colleges are less than 20 minutes apart. There's always heated rivalries. Most years, when they play in each other's gyms, there's usually at least a few dust-ups. There's a lot of the time, there's a technical foul or potential intentional technical foul. It's a really heated rivalry, and it's really fun to watch. But Iona got the better of them last night and moved on to the semifinals here. And, in past years, it's been a time where, like when he was with Fairleigh Dickinson, where Tobin Anderson has done quite well for himself. Unfortunately, I think that the magic is over, and I'm going with the Bobcats here. Quinnipiac won both matchups during the regular season, and they won by 1 at home, but actually kind of handled Iona, even though it was a 5-point win for the Bobcats. Iona only had a 5-point lead early. Quinnipiac never really looked like they were in doubt on this one. Now, the one thing I will say about Iona is they are playing their best basketball of the year. They've won 4 in a row and 6 of their last 7. However, Quinnipiac just has several things that make it really, really tough for the Gales. Number one is Quinnipiac can match them in rebounding. Gales crash the boards very, very hard. You can see that both teams are first in offensive rebounding and preventing it in the conference. They're also both top 25 in the same metric for the season. But Quinnipiac has something that Iona doesn't, and they have Paul Otieno. Otieno, a very, very skilled big man, 6'8", big limber body, and he's given the Gales all kinds of problems. He's especially when Tobin likes to use a lot of guys, but he also likes to use a lot of smaller lineups. Otieno during the season, 14-9 the last time that they played on 5 of 9 shooting. And he's actually been playing quite well lately, put up 20 against Merrimack, put up 16 against Mount St. Mary's. He's got something and a post presence and size that can help limit the Gales on the boards, because they get a lot of their points off second chance opportunities. Gales don't shoot particularly well. Quinnipiac is, Quinnipiac's defense has been okay, but the Gales don't shoot particularly well. They only shoot 33% from deep on the road and away from home. Quinnipiac, a little bit different story. Quinnipiac, not the best shooting team either. However, what they do is they really, really dominate inside. You see the disparity here in 2-point field goal percentage, 4th in the conference versus 12th. The Gales, this comes from being a pressing, more guard-oriented team. Their interior defense can really struggle sometimes, to the point where away from home this year, allowing 58.6%. That's not what you want against a Quinnipiac team that has multiple guys with size. And also you have a guy like Amari Monroe, who is 6'7", but also big body, 220, and gets to the rim. So you have an Iona team that kind of went through a war last night. They did end up winning by 12, but Manhattan came back multiple times. It was a physical game, and you have a Quinnipiac team that was on cruise control. Quinnipiac, again, they won both games during this regular season. I do think that they win again tonight. So my pick will be the Quinnipiac Bobcats going on to the MAC final at -4.5. All right. Last but not least, we're going way out west to one of my favorites, my boys. And they failed me last time, but I'm backing them again, and I'll explain to you why. So Cal Poly against Cal Irvine. Deep in the night, 11:30 p.m. It's a Friday night, so you can stay up late to watch it. Cal Irvine laying 10.5 with a total of 155.5. The Big West tournament is like the West Coast Conference tournament, where it's ladder format, ladder style. So you have a Cal Poly team that's played 2 games in 2 days. And when I explain to you about their style, it'll make more sense why I'm stressing this, against a UC Irvine team that has not played a game since March 8th. So they're a rested team. They're now a healthy team. They have all their guys back, ready to roll. And this Cal Poly team, if you've never watched Cal Poly before, I will say, as a basketball purist, it sometimes makes me cringe. As a fan, they're fun to watch. They are one of the fastest teams in the nation. They play they play so fast. The second the ball goes through the net, they are up the floor. They have the ball in the front court within less than 2 seconds. And they chuck threes with reckless abandon. As you can see, number 1 in the conference for percentage of shots that are 3-pointers. 52.7% of their shots are threes. They have all 5 guys on the floor who they trust to shoot it. They're 5th in the country in percentage of shots from 3. It's bombs away, bombs away, bombs away, bombs away. And what's driven them in this tournament is the 3-point shot. If you stayed up late last night to watch it, or if you're in VIP, and we cashed a team total on this one, this game was a 3-point barrage. In the Big West tournament so far, the Mustangs have hit 29 3-pointers in 2 games. They've attempted 60 in 2 games, and they're not going to stop firing. It doesn't matter if they're up 10, down 15, close game. It doesn't make a difference. This is who they are. Now, why that matters is in addition to dropping both games against Cal Irvine, this is a point where you have a team that can be a little undisciplined sometimes. You can see their turnover margin, 20.5%. 350th on the season, almost last in college basketball, and that has played and logged some heavy minutes, and that plays up and down all the time. They're well conditioned, but they still only are 228th in bench minutes, so they rely on their top 5 a lot, and these top 5 have logged heavy minutes and a heavy load over the last 2 games, and they're going to keep chucking. Now, you get a Cal Irvine team that's second in the conference in 3-point defense at 33%, and that is top half in the country in the same metric. You also get an Irvine defense that is number 3 in the country in 2-point defense at 42.9 for the season, 42.4 for the conference in the conference. Actually 44.3% on the road or away from home, which is really, really good. So Irvine has a huge size advantage on the inside with their big man Brent Lupton, 6'10", big body. So Poly is going to have to keep chucking from the outside. The problem with that, which has been the problem in their first 2 games that they had, is that Irvine's 3-point defense has been exceptional. They've held Poly in both games to under 30% from deep. And again, Poly will not stop chucking. It doesn't make a difference if they're 10 for 10 or 1 for 35. They will keep on chucking. Irvine's offense has some advantages too. They get to the free throw line very well. As you can see, number one in the conference. That's what happens when you play in a conference like the Big West and you have a skilled 7-footer. And they also utilize their guards very well off of high ball screens, off of the dribble drive. In fact, they're for overall free throws attempted. I mean, I got to give a shout out to my boy Miles Che. 123 free throws attempted. That's a really, really solid mark for a wing guy. Uses ball screens very well. Such a smart player. I've posted on X before about him. If you haven't seen Miles Che play, see if you can stay up late and watch this game. One of the best mid-major players in all of college basketball. Really, really like his overall game. Smart, heady. Athletic, doesn't turn the ball over. This kid could easily play in a power conference. So you have those two, and you have a Cal Poly team that can be a little wild and reckless, and a Cal Poly team that, as you can see here, dead last in the conference, doesn't get to the free throw line, and Irvine doesn't foul anyway. So Poly's going to have to win this game from the 3-point line. And when you've played 2 games in 2 days and you're facing a team that's been off for 6, and is one of the best teams in the country in defending the 2, there's only one place that you can go to beat them, and that's from deep. And when you've logged as many minutes as Poly has, to me, that catches up with them. Irvine won in overtime in Poly the second time that these two, or the first time that these two teams played. They ended up winning by 9. Irvine just smacked the hell out of them at Irvine by 30. Poly was never in this game. Irvine just has way too much here, way too much size. They're rested. They take away the one thing that Poly has been making its living on in the Big West tournament. If Poly can hit 10 to 12 threes in this game, yeah, they probably have a shot, but that hasn't happened against Irvine in a while. Not only do teams not make threes against Irvine, they also don't shoot them very well either, or shoot very many of them either. Irvine only allowing 7.6 3-pointers per game. That's not a recipe for success for Poly, because they don't have any other options from which to score. So the official pick here, it's a team that relies on the jump shot, playing its 3rd game in 3 days. Cal Irvine minus 10.5. All right. As a former Big West hooper, Coach Russ is gonna have his guys ready. Yeah, I like Coach Russ, man. I like Coach Russ a lot. He's been there for 15 years, coaches and preaches fundamental basketball. They utilize both guards and big men. Nice inside-outside game. And yeah, I'm totally with you, James Jack. I really, really do love the way Irvine plays ball. My heart's in Towson, as always, but my second team, I always go with the Anteaters, always go with Irvine. So Money Mel's, what's up? What's up, my guy? What's up, everybody? All right, some final thoughts on today. So today we have, obviously, the conference tournament slate continues. There's basketball basically from 11 a.m. Or 11 Eastern, noon Eastern, 11 Central on. Some of the matchups that I think will be good today. It's not that I'm not looking forward to watching Michigan State and Oregon, but I have a strong lean on Sparty in this one. These are the kind of games that Izzo dominates. So, and Duke and North Carolina, I think will be good. I think will be extremely competitive if Flag doesn't play. And I do not discount the Heels here. Team in desperation mode versus a team that could potentially be down their top guy. I never, ever will count the Heels out for this one. Kentucky, Alabama should be fun. You got obviously a sky high total, like always, against those two. If you're going to play the total for that one, I know Luke talked about I'm smelling unders. If you're going to play the total for that one, over is the only way to go. It's just too risky to take an under in that game with that offense. A game that you can look at taking unders for, especially now, would be the A10. You got St. Bonaventure and VCU kicking off in about an hour and a half now, so not too long from now. Another early morning game. Bonnie's under. We cashed it in VIP yesterday. I think you can look at A10 unders pretty easily. I think that'll do it for the ranked teams. I'll go to some comments now. Mom Who Bets, good morning. Always appreciate the love. Always repost, always likes. Thank you for being here. Flow Creator says Texas versus Tennessee. Yeah, I mean, Texas obviously needs the win more than Tennessee does. The 9.5 is a lot considering the fact that these two teams played a 4-point game last time, albeit at Texas. I have a lean on the Longhorns. It's already moved. It opened at 10.5, moved quickly down to 9.5. 80% of the bets as of now and 85% of the money are on the Longhorns for this one. I would tend to agree with that. I don't really want to touch the over. It's really hard, even though I rag on Rick Barnes. His teams do play defense come tournament time, so I'm not really looking to take a total there. But if you gave me a free play, I would for sure take it on the dog for this one, especially in desperation mode. Adam says, thoughts on Texas Tech and Arizona? If you haven't watched the Big 12 tournament, Adam speaks the truth. Whoever designed that fucking Big 12 tournament floor should never be allowed to design it again. That thing is absolutely hideous. It just draws your attention away from the action on the floor. It is just so ugly. The court, now, some people were complaining about the color scheme on the court. I actually don't mind the gray court with the black at the mid court, and then the black Big 12 logos in each lane. I like that. I think that's slick. However, the 3 bazillion big silver or gray Big 12 things are absolutely hideous, and I agree with Adams 100%. That floor sucks. Now, as far as the actual game goes itself, obviously I'm a Texas Tech mark. I have been for about a month and a half now. I still think that at full strength, they are a legitimate chance to make the Final Four, and I probably will have them in a Final Four, at least one Final Four for a few brackets that I do. I think this line is right. 2.5. If you gave me a free play, I'd have to lean towards Texas Tech because I think they're the overall better team. I also think that Texas Tech can squeeze Arizona out of the post, and cut Caleb Love off from the perimeter. That's where they killed Kansas last night. That was the other play that VIP cashed when we cashed on Arizona last night. I think that Texas Tech has the guards and has the length on the wings to push Arizona to have to be a 3-point jump shooting team. It's not that they can't shoot jumpers, but they're not as good when they're chucking and when they're firing lots of threes. They're so much better when they're using high screen and roll, when they're running Caleb Love off of screens to catch the ball and go off the wing and then dish to post. Texas Tech, I think, can defend that a little better. I also think that while their bigs aren't as big as Hunter Dickinson, I think that they're more athletic than Hunter Dickinson. And those are the kinds of teams that have given Arizona problems during the year, is when you force them to be long jump shooting and consistent jump shooting team, a consistent jump shooting team. So the 2 is probably the right number. It's probably going to be tight. I would lean on Texas Tech there. I would also lean. The over has gone up. This thing has kind of rocketed up. It's sitting at 100. I think it opened close to 150. It's almost at 153.5 in some shops right now. I think you probably have to go on. If you're going to play this one, you probably have to look at the under for the total. I don't see any other way to do it. There's just no value to me in betting a bloated over like that in a game that's probably going to be pretty hotly contested. James Jack saying, is Wisconsin UCLA line a little tricky? I thought the exact same thing. Wisconsin should probably be about a 3 to 3.5 point favorite here. So my lean would definitely be on the UCLA money line if you're going to take it with a 1.5 in a conference tournament game like that. If you're going to bet the dog in a power conference, at less than 2, at less than a basket, I would just say, just take the money line because you're getting plus money. And really the only result you're protecting yourself against is UCLA winning by 1 point. So you're going to get plus money to protect yourself, to not protect yourself against that. I'll take that. I'll take the plus money. I think the UCLA money line for this one should be at about it's plus 115, plus 110. Anywhere in there is fine if you're going to play the game for the total. I think that this is the kind of time of year where I know Mick likes to grind games out. Wisconsin obviously likes to play fast, likes to shoot a lot of threes. So playing on a neutral floor in this type of scenario, and Luke mentioned it earlier, this would be another one that I would have a pretty strong lean on the under. While 141.5 is probably about right, I might look to see if I can get a little closer to 142.5, 143 before game time. Or you can wait and see if they go on a little scoring spree to start the game and then take it live. Going back to Texas Tech and Arizona, Logan says, I'm on Tech. I think the winner of this game wins the conference tournament. Yep, I don't disagree with that at all. Getting Tech still at plus 300, and Roberts went down for Houston. Totally love that take. I'm never going to argue with a take that's against the Red Raiders. Never going to argue with a take that's against the Red Raiders. I would agree that I do not think Houston wins this conference tournament. I just don't. I'm not necessarily sure if I could, say like go all in on one of the other remaining teams to do so. I do not think Houston wins this tournament. And as Logan says, Roberts went down for Houston yesterday. That doesn't help as well. I think they squeezed by BYU. Yep, I would agree with that. I think that Houston has too much length on the perimeter. Too much athleticism on the perimeter for a BYU team that can be very reliant on the jump shot. So, Vic, what's up, my guy? Says Liberty and Kennesaw State. Yeah, that'll be a fun game. Their first two were pretty fun. Liberty with the 7.5. That's probably a little too many. That's probably a few too many for me. Even though this is the time of year where Liberty really, really shines. These two teams split during the regular season. Kennesaw State is actually Liberty's only loss since February 1st. Their only loss since February 1st, and they won at Liberty. To do so, they did make 11 3-pointers. So I would expect, and actually, if you watch, because I actually watched a good part of that game. And it wasn't like Liberty's defense was bad either. It was just Kennesaw State was just shooting the living hell out of the ball. I mean, there's just the lights out, contested threes coming off screens, resetting in motion. Kennesaw State had made some really, really tough shots. Liberty, though, they are the class of the conference. They are coming off an absolute smacking of UTEP, where they held the Miners, who are average 3-point shooters, to 7 for 22. But really, that would be the key for Kennesaw State to see, can they make threes at the same clip that they made last time? I don't see them making 11 threes today. Don't really have a take on the number. It's kind of a no man's land ugly number. I would lean, though, however, on the Kennesaw State team total under. I think that this has been bet up a little bit. It's gone up from 136.5 to 139.5. And I can see Liberty making a number of defensive adjustments for this one, especially with how they've been defending the three lately. So the number I can find on DraftKings for the Kennesaw State team total under is 66.5. If you don't think that Kennesaw State is going to make threes at the clip that they did in the last game that they played, which based on Liberty's overall 3-point defense, I don't know if I do either. I think that the look here for me would be Kennesaw State team total under 66.5. Adams, watching KU lose in the first round is going to be awesome. Yeah, in VIP, I said it as soon as they went to overtime. The second that they went to overtime against UCF and gave that lead back, and those who are in VIP who are here can attest, the first thing I said is, I literally posted the graphic and said, the second the game was over, and I said it before the game was over. I said, if KU survives, we're fading them tomorrow. This movie has repeated itself over and over and over again. I got to see who KU gets in the first round. There are a few potential teams that they get where, just based on the combination and mix of guys that they have, that they probably can just win. But right now they're sitting on the 6-11 line, and they would get either San Diego State or North Carolina. If that is the case, if that's the actual matchup, I'm fading Kansas all day there. I'm fading Kansas against either one of those teams. I would, for the other teams that are projected to be 11 seeds, I might fade Kansas against West Virginia. I would probably fade Kansas against Drake. So I'm waiting to see, but made money on him last night, fading Bill Self in March, and I am pretty sure there's only a few opponents. What I really, really want, even though I don't think they'll get up to that, or Kansas won't get up to the 5 line, I really want to see Kansas and McNeese, because if it was Kansas and McNeese, I would bet the McNeese money line instantaneously. This McNeese team, when we get to the tournament preview, I'll talk more a little bit about them. This McNeese team is good. Will Wade, man. Will Wade is the real deal. And he's got this McNeese team. They are big, they are fast, they are athletic, and don't let the conference they play in fool you. This is a team that can easily win a few tournament games. So, Self hates NIL. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it on here before. It's funny because, my dad has coached college athletes and he's coached varsity basketball and knows a ton of college coaches. And, we've talked about that. We actually had a really cool conversation at dinner last night about NIL and about some of the old past generation of coaches that have gotten out of the game due to the NIL structure as it stands today. Jay Wright would be one. Tony Bennett would be another one. Self might be another one after this year. And, I believe wholeheartedly in NIL. I really do. I hate the idea that the universities are profiting to the tune of millions off of these athletes. And the only thing that they get back is, for a lot of them, for some of them now, a year of college, 2 years of college. So I do agree with the concept of it. I do not agree with how much of a free for all it is. And I also do not believe that there's enough structure in place to prevent disparity for teams that just have massive budgets. I know that Ben Johnson just got fired as the coach here from Minnesota. Actually, our family knows Ben. My brother played with him in high school when he was at De La Salle. Good guy, does it for the right reasons. Good coach. The problem is that the University of Minnesota just have no NIL budget. And they lost Pharrell Payne to Texas Tech, or Texas A&M, sorry. And they lost Ola Joseph. They lost Hawkins. They lost all those guys because somebody just came in and wrote a bigger check. And so if you're going to have NIL, which again, I'm a strong believer in, is that I would just like to see a little more structure around it. So there's a little more parity, and so that, it's a little too Wild West right now. I think it'll calm down. I think it'll settle in, but there are a lot of guys that are a lot of old last generation of coaches that either have left or are probably going to leave pretty soon because of what that is. And trucking with Loshan, yeah, I totally agree, man. Similar to a salary cap, yeah, some kind of structure around it. And I've told this story before, but for those that are just listening for the first time, I'll close with this, is that my brother's a financial advisor and played D2 basketball. So he has a lot of connections in that world. And one of his has a lot of clients that are kids. And one thing that the NCAA does not help with in most cases, and a lot of schools don't help with NIL, is that NIL is income and income is taxed. And so you would be amazed at the number of kids that don't realize that they're getting all these NIL checks and all these NIL royalties, and it's just crazy. And they're just like living it up. I mean, there's 18, 19-year-old kids getting $1 million in NIL, close to $1 million in NIL. Well, what happens at the end of the year? Well, the tax man comes due because that is income. And you'd be amazed at the number of them that just don't have any financial network or any financial advice, especially a lot of kids, or some kids that come into that NIL situation come from virtually nothing. And so I feel for these kids because you're throwing an 18-year-old kid who's never had more than, a couple nickels to his name, a $500,000 check, and then, like, they just treat it like free money. It's like, oh, it's just straight cash, homie, right? And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. So I also would like to see, in addition to structure, I'd like to see more help for these kids in using it as an investment vehicle. Yeah, take some and spend it because you earned it. Use it for your expenses and help your family and whatever. That's great, but also have some structure around like investing it for tax purposes, putting it in some other kind of vehicles where you can be financially okay for yourself if playing basketball for a living doesn't work out for you. Because as we know, the percentage of guys where that actually works out for even guys that get NIL is still relatively low. So not to go on a rant about NIL, but the story with my brother is that he was talking with a coach of a well-known D1 program, an assistant coach who, friend of a friend, was a client, and basically said that told a story about how there was this kid who 4.5 to 5-star recruit, and they were trying to recruit him, and his representation, whoever that was, basically just said, well, unless you got $1 million ready for in an NIL bag, he won't even pick up the phone. He won't even talk to you. This is an 18-year-old kid who only played in high school. Like, stuff like that is what bothers me, because it creates a real false expectations for these kids. And having coached a lot of college kids before, I want, above all, to want to see them play ball. I want to see them succeed in life. And I don't believe the current NIL structure is set up to help them succeed in life, especially not if basketball doesn't work out for them. So anyways, that's going to do it for today. Please make sure to give the video a like. Please give the X posts a like, a follow. Spin Doc Sports, Sosa Picks, who was in the chat. We are back live tomorrow. We'll be with you all weekend, because all the way up to Selection Sunday. And then after, because then the madness starts. Best of luck if you're tailing, everybody. See you tomorrow.